A couple of weeks ago, the Minnesota Senate passed a transportation bill. And in this transportation bill, a cornerstone piece of it is a gas tax increase, something I think that all Minnesotans should be concerned about, and something that is going to affect the bottom line of the pocketbooks of everyone. Personally, I was very disappointed that the Senate decided to go this route. And to give you an idea of how much money the Senate believes they need for transportation and they're asking for, this transportation bill, if passed the way that it's been approved in the Senate, would raise $11 billion. Mind you, the GOP-controlled House transportation bill, because we have divided government in Minnesota, Democrat-controlled Senate, a GOP-controlled House, is about $7 billion. Means we have $4 billion in between the two bills. That's a big gap to close between now and the end of the legislative session. We'll see what turns out in committee. Maybe by the time you're watching this, something has begun to happen in committee. But regardless if it's changed, I want you to know what was in this bill as proposed, what the Senate thought was a good idea. First off, the key cornerstone of the piece of legislation is an increase on gas tax. It would be 6.5% per gallon of gasoline. To give you an idea on what we pay per gallon of gasoline right now in taxes, it's 28 cents a gallon, which gives us the 22nd highest gas tax in the United States. So take that 28 cents, add the 6.5% at $2.50 a gallon, that's another 16 cents. That means you'd be paying 34 cents per gallon of gas at $2.50 a gallon in the state of Minnesota. But because this new proposed tax by the Senate is actually a percentage, it goes up as the price of gas would. So at $3 a gallon, which is very, very realistic if you're talking $2.50, we know how summer driving goes even with lower fuel consumption, $3 a gallon, very, very realistic. You're talking 19.5 or roughly 20 cents per gallon increase, meaning we'd be paying more than 48 cents a gallon in gas taxes. And if we go back up to $4 a gallon, that's 26 cents a gallon of gasoline and extra tax, almost doubling the current gas tax. It would give us the third highest gas tax in the state of Minnesota. We jumped from number 22 to number 3. That's not necessarily one of those lists that I think I want to get higher on, but it's one that we will if this bill is passed the way the Democratic Senate has proposed it. Now, this wasn't unanimous. 2 Democrats actually voted with all members of the Republican Party in the Senate here in Minnesota against this bill. It was a 36 to 27 vote. $6 billion of that $11 billion would be raised from this gas tax alone. The rest of this money would come from other fees, increases in tabs. Everyone's got to get car tabs. That'd be another 0.25% increase in your car tabs. Right now, your car tabs are roughly 1.25% of your car's value. The Senate bill would raise it to 1.5% of your car's value. Also, there'd be a metro-wide sales tax of 0.25% to help offset the cost of some metro transit projects, which is a big part of what I think this transportation tax would go to anyway, the metro and metro transit projects, even though it'd be paid all throughout Minnesota. I'm not a big proponent of these taxes. I really think the state of Minnesota should look at not raising taxes and deal with a $2 billion budget surplus and look at reinvesting that into roads and bridges. That's been a big part about what Republicans want. The Republicans have also said, let's take taxes from automotive sales and move them into transportation type things, such as when you go to an oil change or auto parts store and buy something there, the tax that you would pay in those auto parts things goes to there. The Democrats say you're leaving a hole then that's in our regular everyday budget, and the Republicans say that's why you have a surplus. That's the problem. We have huge differences between these two parties in the way they want to look at this tax and the way they want to look at transportation. Both sides agree it's an issue. But with a huge surplus, do we really need to almost double our gas tax here in the state of Minnesota? Are you willing to pay that much more? Sure, it might seem like it's pretty easy to pay now, but very soon, prices will go up, it's going to cost more. And I remember it wasn't too long ago that the price per gallon was hurting Minnesota families, and it'll do that again, and it'll hurt that much worse if we increase its tax.